A very warm welcome to all our viewers. Welcome to Check-in Wednesday. My name is Pamela Marwisa. I am from Transformation Team, and our purpose as an organization is to help people find meaning and well-being in life. In this week's session, we're going to be looking at a very unusual or unfamiliar subject, a word that is not very familiar to most of us. We're going to be looking at misogyny and misogynistic men and their partners who are in relationships with them. So this word may be unfamiliar to most of us, but trust me, this type of relationship is more prevalent and more common than we think. So, what is misogyny? We might just want to start by defining it, what it is. So, the word is unfamiliar to most people. It actually comes from the Greek word miso, meaning to hate, and gyne, meaning women. So, literally, misogyny entails, it means the hatred of women. So, misogyny entails a pattern of mental and emotional abuse in marital or male female relationships. And whilst misogynistic behavior can include physical abuse, it is usually much more subtle. So the usual misogynistic man primarily uses emotional and mental weapons against his partner. And another doctor called Dr. Margaret Rink, in her book, Christian Men Who Hate Women, defines misogynists as men who need to control their wives more than they need their affirmation or admiration, and men who are deeply dependent on their wives whilst at the same time harboring a strong resentment. So we might want to ask, what causes misogyny? Well, why do some people adopt misogynistic attitudes whilst others don't? Well, according to research experts, this is a complex question with equally complex answers. So, several researchers have proposed that misogyny commonly develops as a result of early childhood trauma with a female caregiver. So, an important female figure who was neglectful or abusive or who violated trust can precipitate misogyny. And misogynistic tendencies can be perpetuated with continued exposure to abuse, neglect, or trauma. And some research shows that if intervention occurs in childhood, misogyny can somewhat be addressed and treated. However, once a male reaches maturity, it is extremely difficult to reverse his misogynistic ways. And some researchers have also proposed that some men develop misogynistic beliefs because of gender role conditioning. And so, in some cultures, it is common and widely accepted. There are widely accepted social rules about roles, traits, and behaviors. For example, masculine gender norms often include traits and behaviors like being strong, being stubborn, being stoic, muscular, and macho, and emotional suppression. This is actually encouraged in men. We've often heard this familiar saying, boys don't cry, even though we know that men and boys are absolutely capable of expressing vulnerable emotions. So the true answer on what causes misogyny is probably some complicated combination of these and other factors within both the individual and his culture. So are misogynists aware of their behavior? In most cases, unfortunately, misogynists do not even know that they hate women. So misogyny is typically an unconscious hatred that men form early in life as it remains embedded in the depth of his unconscious. And so how do you know if you are in a misogynistic relationship? So here are some few telltale signs. A misogynist will switch moods without warning and will vacillate from respectful and caring to indifferent and rude. Misogynistic men blame their partners for everything that goes wrong in the relationship and often in their outside life as well. So women in love with misogynists find themselves apologizing for everything, and walking on eggshells most of the time. And sometimes the man yells, threatens, or sulks when he does not get his way or when she does something to displease him. And the guy can punish you by withholding intimacy, money, love, or approval because you have done something to offend him. Another way that you can tell that you might be in a relationship with a misogynist, misogynists will comment on other women's looks, and the majority will be negative comments. It's all about undermining and insulting women. For example, he can say something, oh, she's too fat for those jeans, or she wears too much makeup. And sometimes misogynists can be very possessive and sometimes jealous, especially when she talks and associates with other men. So sometimes he acts jealous of the time she spends with the children, and he may even try to restrict her activities and make her a prisoner in her own home. And because of his possessiveness, she may dissociate from family and friends in order to keep him happy. And she needs these relationships, but usually it's more important for her to keep the peace. So the partner always, seems to be operating on the principle peace at any price, just to keep the misogynist happy. Another way that you can tell that you might be in a misogynistic relationship is often misogynists will be charming and well liked at church, at work, etc. But at home, the partner has to walk on eggshells to prevent making him angry. So often the partner of the misogynist feels confused and off balance because without warning he changes from being loving and kind to being cruel and angry. And no matter how much she changes or tries to please him, he is never satisfied. So she feels inadequate and guilty and believes it must be her fault. And she no longer trusts her own perceptions and wonders if she's going crazy. So if you can identify with some of the things that I've mentioned here, what can you do? Well, if you are in a relationship with most of these characteristics present, please seek help from a professional therapist who understands the dynamics of spousal abuse. And why is it important to seek professional help? Well, a misogynist can cause intense emotional destruction in their partners and can completely obliterate a woman's confidence and self-esteem. So you do find that most women who are in such types of relationships often end up with very low self-esteem. You might also want to ask, can misogynists change? Can they really change? Well, research has shown that anyone is capable of change once they see the harm or cost of their ways and actually care about it and take responsibility for it. So anyone can change. And research has also shown that the unconscious foundation of misogynistic behavior is shame and fear of abandonment. So for some misogynists, the threat of actually losing their partner who they love, even though they treat them as inferior in many ways, is often enough to make them change. So finally, if you can identify with most of these characteristics and suspect that you might be in a misogynistic relationship, please seek professional help. Remember, you cannot change anyone else's behavior, but only your own. But the good news is that once you begin to change your responses to your partner's behavior, the relationship itself must change with you. That's all I had for you today. Thank you.